Good morning and welcome back to Paranormal BC. I went on a bit of a hiatus over the last few months. The kids came home from school and I can't record while they're at home, and then we moved. So that's been a bit of an adventure this year. But now I'm back. I hope everyone had a great summer of 2024 and are ready to continue into spooky season. Today I want to talk about a place that's one of my favorite spots that I've ever been to for spooky stuff. It's called Riverview Hospital in Coquitlam, BC. Now, going back there a couple times, I think the first time I went there was around 2007, and I couldn't believe how creepy this place was. You go up to the big staircase, and it just looks so ominous. And the day we went, it was very cloudy, really thundery looking, and it just made the place look so awesome. I'll put some photos here so you guys can see what I saw that day. I could not believe how cool it was, and I hope to go back there again soon and record my own stories. Unfortunately, I didn't stay long that day, and I wasn't able to explore the inside of the creepier one, the building that they stopped using in 1983, so I don't have my own personal stories today, but I've got some cool ones to read to you. This place has had a lot of movies made at it, including Supernatural, Watchmen, The X-Files, Arrow, Elf, Smallville, Happy Gilmore, Prison Break, Riverdale, Motherland, Fort Salem, and many others, which is pretty impressive. Even when I was there was a bunch of filming crew there. I don't know what movie they were filming, but it's probably not hard to figure out. So I guess I'll read a little bit of history into this place. In 1876, Royal Hospital in Victoria was converted to British Columbia's first facility to house mentally ill patients. Due to crowding, Royal Hospital was closed and the patients moved to the new Provincial Asylum for the Insane in 1878. Again facing problems of overcrowding at the turn of the century, in 1904 the provincial government purchased 1,000 acres in then rural Coquitlam for the construction of Riverview Hospital and the adjacent colony farmlands. Construction of a temporary hospital for the mind began at the Riverview property in 1909. Because of its location near the junction of the Fraser and Coquitlam rivers, it was believed the natural setting would help the therapeutic treatment of patients. By 1913, the first permanent ward, the Male Chronic Building, opened its doors. The new ward was quickly filled to double capacity with over 900 patients. At one time, Colony Farm patient labor was used to produce 700 tons of crops and 20,000 gallons of milk per year. In its early days, the hospital was recognized at the time as a model of psychiatric health care, one of the most progressive asylums in North America, and later received funding from the Rockefeller Foundation. In 1922, the Boys Industrial School for the Juvenile Delinquents opened on the site. And then in 1924, the Acute Psychopathic Unit opened. 1930, the Female Chronic Building opened. In 1934, the Veterans Block opened for the shell-shock patients from the First World War. By 1956, there was over 4,300 patients housed at the site. By the 1960s, patient numbers were declining, a trend attributed to the opening of psychiatric units in regional hospitals and the introduction of antipsychotic medications. By the 1980s, parts of the hospital were closed and sold off to developers as the government sought to move more patients into regional care instead. In the 1990s, more mental health services were moved to smaller regional facilities, and the number of patients at Riverview continued to decline. In 1998, the government announced plans to close Riverview Hospital for good. In October 2000, the government announced a new 20-bed unit would be built at Riverview to house patients who are difficult to place in community residential treatment programs. In 2000, the hospital and the government also came under fire for the continued use of electroshock therapy at the hospital, leading to the resignation of the president of the medical staff who fought the practice. In 2003, a group of former patients launched a lawsuit against the BC government, alleging they were illegally sterilized between 1940 and 1968. They were among nearly 200 patients sterilized between 1933 and 1968. Almost all of them were women. The Sterilization Act wasn't repealed until 1973. 9 women later received settlements totaling $450,000 in 2005. To this day, the hospital buildings and the grounds are recognized as a heritage site for their botanical gardens and architecture. So this place had a really dark history, but I can see why they keep it around. It's good for people to know what happened in those places. Plus, it's just beautiful to visit. It's thought to house many more ghosts than patients these days, with only a few patients still occupying one of the older buildings, mostly in high-security units for those deemed criminally insane. Unfortunately, the West Lawn building has been boarded up for a while due to dangerous asbestos levels. Film crews won't even go in there anymore because of how unsafe it is. I remember going there and it was boarded up, so unfortunately I'll probably never get to go in there unless I had the full proper hazmat suits. The big building running parallel to Lougheed Highway is called Crease Clinic, which is one of the main buildings used for filming. This building in particular has a couple good stories from it. So during the filming of the X-Files television series, many stories and experiences were had by crew members, and many stories were passed down from crew member to crew member. A craft service woman was walking into the main ground floor doors building holding a fruit basket. As she approached the grand staircase, she felt a chill down her back. She shrugged it off and continued up the staircase. The second time she felt like she was being watched as she dropped off items at her table. The third time she felt a chill and a hand on her shoulder. She screamed and ran out the door and locked herself in her truck. Reading a story from Reddit from someone named 21 Seconds. They said, I spent a night in the Crease Clinic when I was a teenager. I think what creeped me out the most were the random children's toys in the hallways. They were probably left behind from a film crew, but when balls started rolling down the hallway, my mind did not go to a logical explanation. This one isn't actually paranormal, but it is kind of creepy all the same. Around 2004, we were filming in Crease Clinic, and our craft service guy and girl noticed that items from our craft service table were slowly going missing minutes after they'd been placed on the table. Coffee makers, bottles of water, and full spreads gone missing very slowly over time. It wasn't until 8 months afterwards that the building liaisons, British Columbia Buildings Corporation, the provincial governing body, were showing a scouting team around the upper levels of Crease Clinic for further filming. They discovered that a former patient had been living in the attic portion for quite some time. All the items that had gone missing were there. The patient was long gone, though, especially after the roof started leaking on them. That would freak me out so bad, knowing that there was someone there watching me the whole time and I didn't even know they were there. So another good story here I found on Reddit. I couldn't find the person who initially posted it because it's been deleted and archived. But it says, I'm a PA, which means a production assistant. It sounds fancier than it actually is. Pretty much you watch one thing for 12 to 15 hours to make sure nothing gets stolen. Like a generator, which someone can easily hook up to their truck and drive off with it. Or you're watching an unlocked door so no one unauthorized comes in. Security is a better term, but without the credentials and training. You just stand there, look pretty, and hope no weirdos come your way. One day I was at Riverview Mental Hospital in Coquitlam, BC. For those who don't know, it was a mental institution. It has been shut down for a decent number of years now. A lot of movies and TV productions use the space for filming. Anyways, I was posted out back of East Lawn building watching the back entrance and also the generator. The crew had already moved down to the cafeteria to film there, but someone needed to stay up here to keep watching. I pulled the short straw. Even though Riverview was a good distance away from other people, there was still a section of Riverview open for addicts in recovery, so we still need to keep watch to ensure no one wanders into the building we're filming in. The cafeteria was a bit down from the East Lawn building, and my walkie was just out of range. I had to pee really bad and hoped someone was coming down to relieve me. Screw it, I said. I hadn't seen a soul in sight and decided to run in and quickly use the bathroom. It was just inside the doors past the eerie empty kitchen. It felt so good to relieve my bladder. On my way back out, I saw a dark figure out of the corner of my eye in the kitchen. I turned my head to look, but no one was there. Hello? I said, wondering if it was someone from the set decoration coming to clean some stuff up. No one responded, so I kept walking towards the doors. I then heard shuffling and footsteps, which sounded like it was right behind me. I gasped and turned around, faster than my brain could think twice. Of course, no one there. Okay. Obviously, you won't respond, but I'm going to have to ask you to leave before I call security, hoping he or she won't catch my bluff that my radio was just out of range. If you're lost, just follow my voice. I'm close to the exit. If it were me and I didn't know where the bathroom was, I'd get lost too. I saw a boy, maybe 7, poke his head out from behind the counter. I was shocked to see someone so young here. Maybe visiting someone and wandered off? Hi there, are you lost? He shook his head and fully came out from behind the counter. Where is your family or guardian? He then shrugged and started walking towards me. I held out my hand to him. Come on, we'll go outside and I'll call for help. Or try to. I could see him more clearly now that he was approaching the sunlight. He looked very pale, as if he hadn't seen the light of day in months. The skin around his eyes were a dark color, and his lips were bluish. It was weird, but it was a cold day. His shirt was like a dark gray, and his slacks looked worn. Poor kid. He looked at me weird, his eyebrows forwarding, and he winced his eyes. He looked mad. I felt a bit confused. He reached his hand out for mine, and he said, "Follow my voice." It wasn't his voice, though. It was mine coming out of his mouth. I froze in fear, watching him get closer. Why couldn't I move? "Angela!" said a sharp voice from the door. I snapped out of it and turned towards my manager. He looked disappointed. "Is your radio dead or something?" I looked down to see the boy, but he wasn't there. I started looking around me frantically. "What are you doing?" he said, now irritated. "Where did he go?" I said surprisingly loud. "Who?" Still irritated. The boy that was right here." And I pointed right beside me. There was no one there. "Anyways, listen, I was coming to give you a break, but it looks like you already had one." I looked at him, and I could tell he saw the fear in my eyes. His facial expressions relaxed, and he said, "Let's go. They've wrapped up at the cafeteria. We can take it from here. Security will watch this post, and you can go home. You look tired." My fear turned to anger, as if he didn't believe me. I stormed off toward my car, and I left, my hands still shaking. Later that night, I tried to look up young boys who died in the hospital but came to a dead end. I decided to give up and go to bed. The next morning, I saw I had a missed phone call from Earl, the nighttime supervisor. He left a voicemail, and I listened to it. "Listen, Angela, whatever game you're playing, you need to stop." In the background of the message, I heard me saying, "Followed my voice." I was very confused and panicked. I rushed to get to Riverview. When I got there were cops surrounding the East Lawn back entrance. My post. I could hear sobs from my crew and policemen asking people questions. "Isn't it ironic?" said one cop. "A guy dies of a heart attack in a hospital, but no one can help." And he shook his head. I found my manager and asked him what happened. "Earl, he died last night from a heart attack. He was only 45, he said, very saddened. I looked over the crew towards the entrance of the building. There, at the door, stood the boy. My heart froze. He mouthed, "Follow my voice," and smiled, an unearthly smile, like he had no cheekbones. The corner of his mouth almost reached his ears, and he then slowly walked inside and disappeared. I never went back to Riverview. In fact, I'm no longer even a PA. Oh my, why do kids have to make things so much creepier than they have to be? Another good story I've just found, also on Reddit, by a creator called My Red Name. There are so many great creepy stories about that place. My first job was also a PA. My creepy story was me and my friend thinking we were funny and going past the cordoned off section leading to the basement. As we walked down the hall, every step, the pipes would bang behind us. I love horror movies, and we usually like a good scare, but got freaked out and we turned tail. Not one bang as soon as we turned around. After that, I was told about a scriptie that was on set, taking her notes during a setup and kept turning and talking. Finally, someone asked her who she was talking to. She said, "The little girl." There was no little girl. Her face went pale. She closed her book and promptly walked off set and didn't return to the show. To be honest, I would probably do the exact same thing. I enjoy reading everyone else's stories, but I don't know if I could have that happen to me. If it did, I'd probably have to sit there and watch Disney movies all day, every day for a month to get it out of my brain. Well, I hope you enjoyed those little tidbits today about Riverview Hospital and learned some of the history about it. Hopefully they don't tear it down and you can go visit it at some point before it's gone. I know I'll be definitely making a trip over there at some point. I live on Vancouver Island, so it's a bit of a ways for me to get to because I got to take a ferry, but it's worth the trip. Especially around Halloween when all the trees are changing color and all the grounds are oranges and yellow hues. It's just beautiful. Even though it's got a dark history, it's still stunning. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!